The Dead Dolls stop off at Derry. Here's your look at the new Mezco toys. This is the Living Dead Dolls It Remake, Pennywise the Clown. Based on the blockbuster Warner Brothers film It, Pennywise the Dancing Clown emerges from the sewers of Derry to join the Living Dead Dolls family and feed on your fear. The shape-shifting demonic clown features bright orange hair and wears his signature clown suit and ruffled detailing. Pennywise can hold his infamous red balloon in his left hand. It seems another Living Dead doll has tickled my fancy. I found this at my local comic book store and had to pick it up. Before we get a closer look at this demonic clown, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall it stands. Oh, I see what I did there. How tall it stands. Very clever. Stopping the tape measure at what I believe to be the top of his head. Now, granted, yes, he's got this additional hair. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think roughly the Living Dead doll version of Pennywise stands at 10.9 inches in height. Centimeters. That works out to be 27.8, so almost 28 centimeters tall. Looking at its one lone accessory, the dancing clown of Pennywise comes included with his red balloon. A trademark from really any, if you think about it, all the Pennywise figures that we've gotten has come with a red balloon, though approached differently, I have to admit, for this release. Usually in the past, we always get ourselves either the means to slide it through the hand, I'm just describing it through my own hand, or you already get a hand that's pre-attached to the balloon. Here in this case, it's a little bit something different. It's a wire frame, sure, and it's done here in black, instead of usually like the more white color. And then of course you've got the red balloon located along the top. This is the first time where we actually have a wire actually feeding its way to the knot, and not being where the knot is usually like at the front or the back of it. But the interesting thing about this, though, is the way it attaches. If you grab the figure, if you grab the doll of Pennywise, of course, on the inside of only one of his hands, it's not on both hands. So, see, stick them up, you'll see that he doesn't have it on both sides. It's only on this one side. You take this peg and you feed it through the hole. Ouchie, ouchie, ouchie. You can imagine that would be quite painful, and it sort of just sticks in his hand. Awkwardly, I have to admit. Now, you can sort of compensate it, but because he doesn't have articulation in the hands, I mean, ultimately, it looks like, well, it looks like how it looks like he's got a peg stuck in his hand. That's awkward. Really, really awkward. I don't really know what else I would have done differently to it. Maybe, if anything, they could have taken a clamp, clamped it maybe onto the side of the wrist, and somehow that fed its way through. But just outright taking the peg and shoving it in his hand, I mean, you're not even hiding the fact it's there. Even if you have it down and you sort of just turn it to the side, it just doesn't look right. I mean, even from the side, it looks like he's just sort of levitating the string. It just ain't right. That's a bit sad. But needless to say, we'll just take that out of his hand. And of course, unfortunately, the trade-off for that, though, is peekaboo, I see you. You can see the hole right in Pennywise's hand. So one sad strike, I had to exaggerate that sad. One sad strike for Pennywise to an otherwise decent enough looking figure. We just want to make a course correction to something stated on the back of the packaging. It says it features bright orange hair. Orange hair. Maybe a blood orange, but certainly not a regular Sunny D citrus orange. There's no way that that's orange. I mean, maybe you could say it's a very, like I said, dark orange, but I would almost say it's more so a red than anything else. It's not quite what packaging does state, but nonetheless. Having a look at his face, I mean, of course, you're taking Pennywise and you're superimposing him onto the head of what we normally expect with Living Dead dolls. Ironically, it does translate, I feel, well on this particular release. It looks like something that would work as a Living Dead doll. There's certainly questionable ones where we've gotten them, and I've looked at them even and thought, I don't know. I like Living Dead dolls, but putting that particular character as a doll just doesn't work for me. I don't feel that way about Pennywise. He's a decent looking Living Dead doll. You can see, yes, the very high up eyes staring right back at you. And thank goodness he does have the articulation in his head. So you can actually have him looking straight up at you. A very chalk white head. He has only the few little markings of the cracks. At least they put that in there. That's something. And then he does have the airbrushing of dark around his eyes, where, of course, the devil horns from his smile jet not quite straight through. They sort of hide underneath that. And it's the same airbrushing that they put also into his eyebrows. I like the fact that he does have the two buck teeth sticking out from the front. It sort of adds to the playfulness that you would expect when it comes to the Living Dead dolls, or the LDDs, as the real Pride collectors like to note them as being. Again, like, you got the really interesting looking hair. It's far from being really orange, though. You can fan it out. You can, get it a little more crazier. I don't know how crazy you'd really want to have his hair. It sort of reminds me of the Living Dead doll Michael Myers that I had to look at not too long ago, where a lot of the budget, you got to imagine, was blown was putting into all this additional hair. Certainly bonuses for the year. Lunches, those employee appreciation lunches, got to love those. Those were all put on the back burner in favor of all this additional hair. I mean, to the credit, it's really hard to find. There it is eventually. Getting down to the root of the issue. I see what I did right there. It's really well covered. I mean, you don't even see the scalp of the head whatsoever. So they really have been putting a lot of extra hair into these. Whatever it's costing them as a company, I appreciate for the fact that at least they put as much hair on these guys as they do. Of course, you've got yourself the more corset style costume for this clown, complete with the ruffled collar, the ruffled sleeves, the ruffled skirt sections, and all the way down to his boots, the cuffs right above his boots. Now, being that these are Living Dead dolls, you technically could remove his footwear. I don't really know why you would want to. You'd only be treated really to the doll's foot underneath this. Plus, I find these ones specifically, being that they are slightly what feels like a little more of a softer plastic, I almost don't want to even take these off. So you'll excuse me if I don't, because I just don't want to warp these. I mean, I feel like once you do stretch those, these particular boots aren't going to stay in the same place as where they started. I like the fact that they did use real pom-poms as opposed to sculpting these in plastic. In fact, actually, he's got real pom-poms working the midriff section of his body as well. And even the yarn that they've used, like a candy cane striping of yarn, is really nicely done on this particular piece. For his articulation, let's go ahead and look at it right now. His head rotates all the way around. Kind of in a way, he looks like a real demonic Ronald McDonald. And I think a lot of that can be chalked up to his hair. Had his hair been just like closer to orange, as the packaging had initially touted, I would get very much less the vibe of Ronald McDonald. It does feel a little like Mr. McDonald, doesn't it? Needless to say, the head rotates all the way around. It hinges up and down, so you can get that good, low-looking Pennywise. I like that. But, you can also rock it back and forth. So you pretty much get the basics for what you would expect with these dolls. The arms move out to only really about a 45-degree angle. It's not quite a 90-degree angle, which would be here. It's about half that. So you would say about 45. The arms rotate all the way around. You do want to be really, really careful, of course, that you're not twisting the fabric too much. And he does have a swivel actually at the top section. I hoped in this case you could have actually had a swivel in the wrist, because then you could have hidden the balloon, I think, a little bit better than what they did. It doesn't have any waist swivel or anything like that. The legs moderately hinge out to about there. You can move them forward, you can move them back. Doesn't have knee articulation, but he does have foot articulation, only technically by the way that the feet attach into place. And they are a little on the loose side, but until I get to that point where I stretch these out, I don't think the boots are going to fall off, so that's good. Not a bad looking Living Dead doll. I mean, again, it's not everybody's taste. I get that. It's not everybody's taste to jump on board the Living Dead doll line or the LDDs line. I do think Pennywise, for the most part, turned out to be a great looking figure. Questionable, really, on the idea of why they would say that that's orange. That's more red than anything else. Perhaps a distant cousin to Ronald McDonald. That's why kids were getting Happy Meals so much back in the 80s. who's related to Pennywise, or maybe he was Pennywise and he just took another form. I'm giving you guys all these additional stories to lead you down a path that you probably didn't want to go. Needless to say, though, I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out, except for maybe the way that the balloon is attached in place. That doesn't really work. No, that doesn't really work at all. Of course, one thing to also consider with these being Living Dead dolls is that these are supposed to be dolls that you would expect to see on somebody's shelf. You know, if you go to Grandma's house, Nana, she likes to be called. If you go to Nana's house, she probably has a whole shelf full of vintage dolls. And while it's very unlikely you're going to be seeing a Living Dead doll sitting on her shelf of Michael Myers or Pennywise, unless Nana is really cool, and maybe she is, that would probably explain why the obvious peg being pegged into the hand of Pennywise to hold the balloon. As after all, this is what the dolls probably would have done had you find a Sally Lou doll, I don't even know if such a thing exists, holding a balloon. It probably would have been pegged into her hand as well. Ouchie. So we can kind of look over the fact that, yes, the balloon does look a little awkward. For the most part, I'm happy with how this one turned out. Excessive amounts of hair, I have to say yet again. Like the Michael Myers, they really don't skimp when it comes to the amount of hair that's been flocked into the scalp here. And the end result is a full head of hair for Pennywise the Clown. It's not orange, and I really think that is the one thing that also throws this figure off, this dead doll off, is the fact he doesn't actually have orange hair. It's closer to red. It looks a little bit more like Ronald McDonald. I'm feeling like a cheeseburger. Anyways, a really nice pickup nonetheless. I'm going to add this to my current collection of Living Dead dolls that seems to be growing every single day. Not that I'm buying Living Dead dolls every single day, but it seems like the numbers are growing on my shelf. Maybe they're multiplying and I don't even know it. That's a creepy thought. Either way, let me know what you guys think of the Living Dead dolls release of the 2017 Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Not a bad looking Living Dead doll, if this is your thing. If it isn't your thing, I'm just selling you on an idea that you have little to no interest in anyways. But if you're in the market of collecting Living Dead dolls, this is a nice pickup to add to your current collection. If you are new to this channel, or a long-time viewer, never got around to it, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and do yourself a service, why not, while you're in the habit of it, hit that bell notification. I don't know if it actually even works, but apparently it gives you guys notifications, so when future videos are coming onto this channel, you're apparently in the know. And any little bit more in the know you can be to help make sure that you are seeing all the videos that are hitting this interweb, why not hit the bell notification? It may change to something else down the road, but we're going to stick with bells for the time being. It's all about ringing those bells. Keep your peepers peeled, my friends and members of the mob, because there's going to be a whole lot of videos coming your way, so stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.